With the parts for the Steflos dropping from the new mirror defense mission, or by taking the same crystal fragments you get from doing the mirror defense mission and going to see otak and buying whichever component you are missing, the Steflos is a pretty decent shotgun that you want to love but might end up hating. Even if it only comes with one polarity and it's a V. The V polarity can be really useful simply down to the fact that primed point blank will fit in there, leaving you 53 more points available once you start getting into forming it and lots of other things. So after a little bit of testing, each one of these squares is about 5 meters and it's exploding at the edge of the platform, which is about 10 meters away. 10 meters and it explodes. Shoot it through an enemy, it goes, basically it looks like it resets the distance of it every time. So if we try shooting it through quite a few enemies and aim it up so it goes above, you'll see it's basically getting into that corner every time, so we'll go for the actual corner instead of going for the corner itself. It's near enough 6 times the range it's getting, and well, it's hitting maybe 3 or 4 enemies. So if you lined them up well enough, all the way into the corner. Because of course the way that this thing works is every time it hits an enemy it increases the range of it, which means it's not in fact resetting every time it hits an enemy, it's kind of adding up. So the last enemy it hits, from then onwards, depending how many it's hit, it will increase the range from the last enemy hit. If it hits enough enemies in the meantime, I should say. It's a very, very weird one, but hitting enemies increases its range is the basics of this, and it kind of works really well. And I have used this way too often to turn around and say, I hate this shotgun because of this feature. Mainly because of multi-shot. And no matter how you put it, it is one round. There is one bit that comes out of the middle, it's one round. Even with a multi-shot of 2, it's one round. So to be fair, I'm still torn if multi-shot even does a damn thing on this weapon. It should, because it's got a multi-shot of 2, but no matter how you fire this, it's still pretty much always and constantly one round. That is the biggest kind of issue that I've came across with this. With the 2-point whatever multi-shot, I did have it to 3, but it was kind of a pain. It's still only firing one round. There is no staggering of this round, hence kind of moving back and forward, because it should stagger the second round, but it doesn't. Even at a multi-shot of 2, it's still only firing one. So until it's kind of confirmed, I'm taking multi-shot off. The build I've kind of been running around using is 10,500 damage, and then there is this that is now gone down to just under 4,000 total damage, because the damage it was doing is now halved because the multi-shot is now gone, in favour of Vicious Spread, which does slightly increase the damage, but also, probably more importantly to this weapon, increases the spread. Which I cannot figure out if it is in fact increasing the size of this or not, because it's moving too fast, and by the time it's done anything, it's a little bit bigger. Maybe more testing to be done on that one as well, but it would definitely run Vicious Spread over multi-shot, because this thing does not fire more than one round, and you can see the trail from one round is exactly the same as it was from 2, because it only shoots one round. Multi-shot on this, definitely wasteful. I really wanted to hit on this shotgun. It seemed to be very gimmicky in the way that it works. Hitting one enemy basically resets the range of it, and then it will continue for that range beyond hitting an enemy. The way they advertised it was, when it hits an enemy, it will increase the range for the next blast. To be fair, prefer it this way to how they said it was going to be, but it just like every other weapon in the game, it's good, but it could be better. Just simply down to silly things like the fact that multi-shot doesn't affect it. It makes sense, it only shoots one round. Even when you give it a 2 multi-shot, it still only shoots the 1 round, which is also perfectly fine, but it's a shotgun. And the shotguns are always and have always been the same. Add multi-shot, increase the amount of projectiles, increase the amount of damage. The fact that it doesn't do this, ooh, it just comes down to the fact that the mods that are available for shotguns just don't make up for the fact that multi-shot doesn't exist on this. This is the same for, I'm just going to put it as, other single round weaponry of this type that I'm not going to name for obvious reasons. Simply down to the fact that it shoots 1 round and that 1 round doesn't do enough damage. I've given it a week in the hopes that maybe they might buff it so the multi-shot works, but there's just been nothing. It's yet again nothing from Digital Extreme on this. They don't have to buff it. To be fair, it's a single round weapon, it works as it's supposed to. I was just secretly hoping that they would realise that if you stick a 2-point anything multi-shot on anything, it should shoot a second round. This doesn't, so multi-shot just doesn't work on it, and that in my opinion ruined it. If this had have been in the rifle category of weaponry, this thing would have been quite amazing. Simply down to the fact that there is a lot more damage based mods, crit based mods for rifles than there is for shotguns. Shotguns are kind of a forgotten weapon type because most of the decent mods for shotguns are multi-shot. And this doesn't have multi-shot. If it wasn't for that one niggling thing in the back of my head, oh, that's why I really want to hate this, but to be brutally honest, it actually kind of amazed me once I actually took it somewhere with higher enemy levels to it. Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, same as always. In Arbitration it was okay. If I still have that footage I'll kind of throw some in here. But in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught it was doing kind of much higher numbers. It actually amazed me because during testing for this I could not get it to hit any of these numbers, but in real world usage, it was hitting for a lot higher than I was hoping it would hit for, which is why I'm saying I would love to hit on this thing, but it's okay, it's acceptable, it's not quite a Heck or a Tigris that maintain their monstrous shotgun standings, simply down to the fact that those things do 10, 20, 40,000 damage. This thing with a good build on it can do maybe 5. An okay build about 3. And that's why it's lackluster. It's great for crowd control if you can get them to come down one corridor, but enemies come from all directions. So there's not even a specific mission type this is good for, unless you go and do a survival mission where you sit in one room and then all the enemies come to you, then it might work. Worth picking up? Yes, it fits exactly at the level it's supposed to be at. It's not an endgame based weapon, because after the Heart of Deimos is where this weapon basically sits, which is way before a lot of the other ones. Let's ignore the Incarnon weapon that just annihilates this in every single way, shall we, because that is much later on in the game. This fits exactly where you should pick it up, which, if you take that into account, actually made it a pretty decent... I'm going to just put it as primary, because in my opinion, just down to the fact that there is a way better mod selection for rifles, this would have been a better rifle than a shotgun, which is a bit of a shame. To be fair, from the imagery of it and everything else, it would have made an amazing ARC gun. Like quadruple the damage. Amazing ARC gun, but that would mean you'd have to increase the range, and to be brutally honest, as an ARC gun, it would also kind of be useless at this range, because ARC guns are just, yeah, let's forget I said ARC guns, and you know what, let's just leave this off here before I dig myself into what I cannot get myself out of. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you next time.